So the last time I saw Peter was in Riga, 2022. Is that right? Yeah, I missed the last two, so that was 22. And Eric Voskuil did the math on Peter's paper about tail emissions.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like inflation and what the ramifications were. So it was kind of funny because Eric just got up there and did a solid hour-long like advanced calculus like seminar, and everybody missed it except for Peter. Peter Todd was in the back, and he kind of did that like roaring kitty meme where he like sits forward and is like intensely paying attention because Eric just kind of like blindsided him. He's like, we're gonna go through the actual math behind Peter's proposal.
Interesting.
It was a great one for nerds.
Yeah, I think like there's a lot.
Not so much for anybody else in the room.
There's a lot that I would want to pick his brain about because I do think there are legitimate. Oftentimes I think when people are debating at that level. So Lugano, the conference Plan B Lugano, I'll give them some credit. So they had two very interesting debates. One was on the block space usage. That was with me and Peter and Luca and Mechanic. And the other one was with Jameson Lobb and Jimmy Song on ossification.
Yeah.
And it was a decent attempt at a conference, like actually injecting some conflict, like kind of into the programming to kind of make it interesting.
That's interesting. Was anybody in favor of ossification?
Yeah, Jimmy was. Jimmy was arguing, like, sort of in a like debate
Jimmy
style
Song
setting. He was arguing for it.
Does he not realize how ridiculous that is?
With the initial caveat, like that he, made some immediate concessions about, it needs to be like a overwhelming need and sort of like impetus.
But that's such a ridiculous thing to say about an open source software project. Ossification doesn't exist by definition.
Well, I mean, Jameson also opened by conceding that it's inevitable that Bitcoin ossifies in his view. So like they both kind of started with. But
it doesn't. It can't. It can always be improved if people decide to accept whatever update on their node. Like ossification is a total red herring.
It is a bit of a red herring, but it reveals a lot of things in talking about it, right? Because a lot of times my view is that like the disagreements about a certain subject, if it's significantly advanced, like it isn't actually about that subject really.
Yeah,
it's about like a bunch of tertiary like things that they actually disagree about.
Yeah, sure. So like with Taproot coming in, and we have ordinal theory and inscriptions and all of that stuff. People want to like roll that stuff back. I mean, you can't ossify now necessarily if they're, huh?
Do they still? Is that like a still?
I think some people still rant about that.
Right.
But the cat's out of the bag. Like even rolling that back is an argument against ossification. Maybe there's something in, Taproot
I think
or
rolling
SegWit
it back
that we
is
don't
like a much more strange argument.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a lot of problems with that general argumentation. I mean, the most problematic one is that, Bitcoin would be better money if it was different than how it has always been.
Yeah.
Which is like an counterintuitive argument. I fought with Nuts Van Holm for like 3 hours at Lugano about this because the claim is like, it's like, okay, like Bitcoin would be better money if it didn't allow for a market for arbitrary data.
Yeah.
And so the claim is bizarre because it has essentially been the case that Bitcoin has always been that way. And so right now the price is $87,000.
Let's go.
And Bitcoin is the best money that's ever been created, but it has a problem. It has this deep fundamental problem that has always existed. It's like a strange claim, right? Like it's just, I don't understand how they got to that point.
It's the worst money except for all the others.
Well, they're just like, here's a way to make this better. And it's like, well, it's always been that way. And you already say that it's good. So like, what's the actual problem here? Like,
yeah.
It's like, why? It's like you're accepting the claim that Bitcoin is the best money and you're agreeing with that. But you're saying it would be better if it wasn't how it always was.